Hey, Fatheads. Welcome to another episode of Sharing Our Pairings. This is episode 37, Whiskey, and it says it should be with Victor Vitale, not and Victor Vitale, but it's Whiskey with Victor Vitale. I'm your host, John the Cigar Surgeon, broadcast around the world on YouTube, Cigar Federation, Cigar Federation app, and rebroadcast on the Armed Forces Radio Network. Thanks very much for all of our podcast listeners and Armed Forces Radio Network listeners. As Rob likes to say, you guys are built to do stuff that we are not, and we appreciate you out there keeping us safe. I'm joined, as always, with my co-host, Robbie Rass. Rob, what's going on, brother?
Just just living the dream out here in California. I have and I told you about this. I haven't let Victor in on the secret. I've had something stuck in my eye since about 9 a.m. this morning, and I can't get it out, and it's driving me nuts. So if you see me clawing at my face, that's just trying to get it out.
Yeah,
Other than that, oh, it's brutal, man. It's the worst. It feels like it's like I've got like a pine cone stuck in there, and it's probably just like a piece of hair or something. But anyway, that's nothing that a little whiskey can't fix. So I'm ready to get started.
Heck yeah. So, of course, we're joined by our special guest who's never been on the Pairing Show, and we kind of got to talk a little bit with him at the IPCPR about some Japanese whiskey. Victor Vitale. Victor, what's going on?
So I'm all set to pick up my Japanese whiskey in about a week. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, just sitting out here, getting bit by mosquitoes, enjoying the beautiful night, last couple of weeks of summer.
Now,
figured I better get outside for a little bit.
Whereabouts, sir, about that? Whereabouts are you calling in from?
Today I'm in Philadelphia, PA.
Nice. See, I don't think of Philadelphia as a big mosquito place. I don't know why. I kind of think of it as a concrete jungle, not a, mosquito.
It is. They seem kind of desperate tonight, though. So they must know that the summer's almost over.
So of course we are pairing one of your delicious cigars today. So maybe we can turn to you to talk a little bit about the cigar, because
sure.
I'm gonna talk everyone's ear off about whiskey, but it's the Coyote Negra. Is that right?
Yeah. It's a Brazilian Mata Fina. It's dubbed El Coyote Negro because it's very, very rare. The Brazil Mata Fina wrapper these days is very rare. It's difficult to grow. The yield is low. The quality of the leaf is very, very high if you're choosing the A-grade stuff. But what's really common in the marketplace today is San Andres and Connecticut broadleaf. That's what you see a lot on a lot of Maduro cigars use those two leaves predominantly. Whereas if you rewind the clock to about 10 years ago, Brazilian Mata Fina was actually very prevalent in the marketplace. So, as we cycle through crops and leaf supply, things come in and out of popularity. And for me, as a craft brand owner, I'm always looking for something that not everyone else is using. So about 2 years ago, actually about 3 years ago now, I started working with Brazil Mata Fina and just fell in love with it again, and really worked hard on this blend. And I think we achieved what we were looking out for. We were looking for a fuller bodied, but very fresh, clean on your palate type of cigar. And nothing too, as you know, if you get more into the fuller bodied smokes, they kind of leave a dirty feeling on your palate, and that's like totally not for me. I blend for balance, not strength. So as we've talked in previous shows, that's really the goal overall.
Every one of your cigars that I've smoked, and I think I've smoked everything. I haven't smoked the box press yet. The Tortuga Reserva line, I should say. Everything is clean on the palate. That's one thing I've noticed. Nothing's heavy. You're going to get a finish, and some of the finishes are longer than others, but nothing that really hangs onto your palate and is clinging onto it. And I mean, sometimes you want that out of a cigar, and sometimes I do, but I've noticed that out of all of yours. That's never anything that we get.
Yeah, you're right. And I'm glad you mentioned that too, because I really don't want to alienate anyone, because I know there are a lot of smokers out there that really love that kick in the face, spice bomb, and although my cigars have been referred to as somewhat spicy, for the person who's really smoking the upper end and strength type stuff, this isn't going to be on the strength scale that they're used to, because it's really dialed back. So you'll hear me say a lot that it's really like a 3/4 strength cigar. That's really as high as I go. So the Coyote Negro, which you guys, I believe you're both smoking the number 500 tonight.
Yep.
That's going to be about a 3/4 strength. And I'll tell you a quick interesting story. I was visiting a client of mine in the state of Maryland a few months back, and it was the first time that he's ever smoked a cigar. And this guy's been around for years. Smokes everything from, the strongest cigars to the most spice bombs there is. And when he first lit it up, he said, "Wow, this is mild." And I said, "Geez, mild? That's the first time I've ever heard that." I said, "Why don't you just smoke it for a little while?" And interesting, he sat down after about 5 minutes and he said, "This one really sneaks up on you. You don't really notice the strength in this cigar because it's so balanced." And I didn't even have to say anything. He said it from his experience. He knows what type of blend it is. So I was really happy to hear that from him.
It's funny, man, when you get a cigar that's got a little bit of a kick to it, and this one's got some strength. If it doesn't have a matching spice, people aren't paying attention. I feel like at least half of the cigar smokers out there confuse spice and strength.
It's true.
They confuse them.
It's true. Right away you'll hear them say, "Oh, this is barely medium bodied" or something like that, until they really get into it and they see that a cigar can be fuller bodied and balanced if it's blended properly.
Yep. And I mean, the nice thing about not having, because I agree with you, like on Connecticut broadleaf, the challenge with pairing is it is very sort of I call it leather and dirty earth or loam, because it leaves that sort of leathery taste in your mouth and a little bit of that rough dirt, and that's tough to pair with, because if you're drinking something that's also complex and nuanced, it's going to get run over by the leather and the earth. Whereas I'm already, I don't know, an inch in, and my palate is still good. Like I still feel like I can drink lots of whiskey, and I can taste. It's nice.
Well, that's good, because we are going to drink a lot of whiskey.
Heck
So
yeah.
we should probably get started, because we've got 9 whiskeys to talk about. I don't think we've doubled up on anything, so we should probably get started with that.
I'll do the short version. This is one of my favorite bottles from an Islay distillery, Berclotti. Jim McEwen, who I had the great pleasure of meeting on a couple different occasions, was the master distiller and retired in this year, actually, in July. So I've got some signed bottles from him. Super nice guy, also a cigar smoker. And the reason I'm drinking this is because it's super elegant. It's interesting because you think of Islay distilleries and you think, okay, well, it's going to be peaty and smoky. And the curious thing is that most of the expressions out of Berclotti are not smoky and spicy. They're more elegant. There is Victor, I think, has a Lagavulin. So Lagavulin, of course, has that sea brine to it. So Berclotti definitely has some of that sea brine character to it, but it's also got all of these stone fruits and bright citrusy qualities to it, which you just wouldn't expect out of an Islay whiskey. So I'm gonna sip on that while Rob talks about what he's got up on deck.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I went more bourbon really today than Scotch whiskey. I'm starting with Stranahan's Colorado whiskey. We've talked about this before on the show. I don't think we've actually had it on the show before. I got this bottle actually from a member of Cigar Federation. It's made in Colorado. They don't have a very wide distribution. You can find it online, but like I said, one of the members of Cigar Federation hooked me up with a bottle here, and it's pretty cool. I mean, these actually have handwritten notes here on the bottle. It's signed by the distiller, though I can't read his name. His comments, it's got a little spot for comments. I don't know if you can see that there, but it says, "Hits your lips so good." Those are his comments. It was distilled on August 13th of 2012, so just over 4 years ago. And this is from batch number 140. They're relatively new, and it's a relatively small distillery. You can find all the information. I'm not going to go into it, but you can find all the info at Stranahan's .com, STRANAHANS.com. I really enjoy it personally. It's got a little bit, to me, it almost has a little bit of a Scotch quality to it, and I can't talk about this stuff in the same terms that John and Victor can talk about it in, but it's got a little bit of that smokiness to it that I attribute to a Scotch, but it's not overpowering. It's not a strong peaty flavor, just a little bit of a smoky flavor to it. It's pairing really nicely so far with Cabernet Negro. I've been sneaking some sips while you guys are talking. It's bringing the cigar is bringing out a spicy kind of peppercorn flavor that I've never really tasted in the whiskey before, and I think it's just a combination of the flavors that I'm getting from the whiskey and the cigar. But so far, so good.
Victor, what do you got?
Yeah, you're up, man.
That sounds really good. Well, first off, I'm really I'm an expert Scotch drinker. I'm really not an expert Scotch describer. So I'm actually looking forward to learning a lot from you guys tonight. I got the Bullet small batch rye. It says 95 on the label there. I don't know if that, John, maybe you could tell me if that's special edition or that's just what they number.
Well, it's 95% rye.
Is that what that means?
Yeah, well, that's what it says right on the label. I'm just reading from the label. I've had that before.
There we go.
I like Bullet. The regular Bullet bourbon is kind of our well bourbon at home. I mean, that's the bourbon that my wife and I put in just about anything. And we get the big bottles, from Costco. And for the price, I love that stuff. And the rye is actually really good too. But I didn't mean to jump in, but go ahead.
No,
So
this is great. I really like it
95%.
with. I'm smoking the Connecticut shade, my Tortuga Connecticut, and I really like this with a Connecticut shade. It has some sweet notes to it. It doesn't have a lot of heat. You know how some scotches, some whiskeys have a lot of heat? This is really a smooth, low heat, to me anyway. It's very low heat, and the sweetness really comes out at the end of the finish. And it also seems like it has a longer finish for me as well, which I really like in a whiskey.
Yeah, I think the only time that I've got a bottle of that in the house. I don't think I've ever had it just straight. I've had it mixed in, different cocktails that call for rye. So I haven't really experienced a whole lot of rye just straight, but it's definitely got a distinct flavor for me anyway. It has a, and I don't even really know how to describe it. It's more of like an earthy, but earthy isn't even right. It's almost like a dry earth type flavor, almost like a like dry vegetation kind of. Like dried wheat or something like that.
Toasted grains, toasted sweet.
Yeah,
grains.
That's a better way to put it, I guess. But that's kind of that flavor that I get from that.
I think you're right on with that. I mean, I'd say that's right on.
Yeah, it's a unique flavor that I've only experienced in rye. But like I said, there's a ton of rye out there, and rye has made a big comeback in the last, I don't know, 5 years. At least I've seen it more in the last 5 years. Maybe it's just because I'm paying attention, but and I wasn't before, so who knows? It's kind of like when you get a new car, and then you start noticing that everyone else is driving. Everyone else has your car.
I got to be honest. I see the same thing. I mean, normally I go for the peaty scotches, and I mean, unless someone should be buying next, I really don't know. I mean, I haven't spent an overwhelming amount of time educating myself on different types of scotch, so. This one was actually a gift. A very good friend of mine gave me this as a gift, and a lot of the other scotches that I have are just pretty much the store that I go to in Westboro, Massachusetts. Whenever they have someone in talking about scotch, I usually just end up buying a bottle right there.
Nice.
That makes you a good customer.
I guess.
Just a reminder
just get on the phone and call. Hey, yeah, you got this Chi Boo peated? Yeah, we got a few bottles left. All right, put one aside for me.
That's funny. We've told that story, but I've been looking for that bottle of that since we did the show, John, 6 months ago, 5 months ago?
Since we did Japanese Whiskey 1.0, yeah.
And Victor makes one phone call, and guy's like, yeah, I got a couple bottles for you. I mean, it's out of my price range for where I want to be. That is easy to explain to my wife. And that's where my price range lives. If it's easy to explain, then we can do it. But
Well, this guy gets everything. So if you're ever stuck finding something, just let me know. I mean, he put aside 2 bottles of the Shackletons for me over a year ago, which
wow.
I was really
Yes.
excited about. And I went in looking to buy 1 bottle, and he said, "No, you got to get 2. You got to drink 1 and put 1 away." And I just finished the first bottle last week, and boy, that second bottle is looking real good right now. I got to tell you. I don't think it's going to make it another few weeks, or at least the winter.
Just a reminder to audience, you're watching or listening to Sharing Our Pairings, episode 37, Whisky and Victor Vitale, broadcast live on YouTube and cigarfederation.com, rebroadcast on podcast and the Armed Forces Radio Network. Just we've got an interesting promotion coming up, so be sure to check out the new Oktoberfest from Quesada Cigars. We've got a huge promotion going on with great prizes, including Oktoberfest Steins, which I'm super excited about, and some limited editions boxes of Oktoberfest. So check that out coming up soon. Another event reminder, we've got the Rocky Mountain Smokeout coming up here in my neck of the woods in Calgary, October 2nd and 3rd. So if you're in this neck of the woods or you're going to be in this neck of the woods, check it out at RockyMountainSmokeout.com. Yeah, one thing about this, lost my train of thought there for a second. So what's interesting for me, this Berclotti, there's a real salty brininess to it, and it's interesting because the Coyote Negra has this really elegant, creamy sweetness to it, and so they're playing off of each other really well. Like they're not complementary, they're contrasting, but they do so in sort of that like a sweet and salty kind of way, where the saltiness is bringing out a little bit more out of the cigar. And the whiskey is not overpowering the cigar, which is, always a good plus because you can enjoy both and taste them both.
That's always what it depends on what your goal is. That seems to be our goal, is to find something that really does complement both. The Coyote Negro is doing some interesting things to this Stranahan's. I'm getting that peppercorn thing that I was getting on the finish. Now it's more like a hot red pepper flake. And I never really got much spice out of the Stranahan's to begin with. And now I can't not notice it. And I don't know if I like it. I really like the cigar, and I really like the whiskey, but I don't know that combining them together is working out that well. That spice, it's a weird flavor that's coming out that I don't like. And John, you mentioned that kind of nougaty like sweetness that you get from the cigar, and I'm not getting that anymore. So I got to get away from the Stranahan's, and I'm going to move on to
Pairing number notes.
Yeah, I'm going to move on to something else here.
All right, well, I'll kick it off. I did go bourbon because I was at a bourbon tasting at my local place, Kensington Wine Market, and I found this bourbon. We did I think it was like a 7-pour tasting, which I'm not sure whether you're thinking,
Those are the best.
boy, the last one was really good, but it didn't work out that way. This was the 3rd pour. So this is the Elijah Craig. It's a small batch. It's 12-year aged bourbon. It's from William Heaven Hill Distilleries. It is Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. So all bourbon is American, but not all American whiskey is bourbon, and certainly not all American bourbon is Kentucky bourbon. It's very complicated, but not only is this delicious, it's 12-year aged, and I hate to use the word inexpensive because a lot of people think inexpensive is crappy, but take a look at this glass and how dark that is. I mean, you look at that and you go, I want to drink that because it just looks rich and ambery, and you look at the legs it's leaving in the glass. I mean, I'm going to stop talking about it and I'm going to start drinking it. It's delightful, and I'm going to enjoy every minute of it.
And it's exceptionally affordable.
Exceptionally affordable.
And normally, John is bringing out the highfalutin stuff. And for you to roll out with some Elijah Craig, which I've seen, and I know I've had it. I've never sought it out. I've never bought a bottle, but we just looked before the show started because John's telling me you got to get a bottle of this. It's got to be in your bar. It's really good. You can get it for $25 at Bevmo, and that just blows me away. That's something that you would get all excited about is that affordable.
Yeah, for a 12-year-old, I mean, you got to think, right? It's not like cigar manufacturing where you can maybe turn out a product every quarter or even every 6 months or every 8 months. You know, at the minimum, you're sitting on bourbon for 2 years before you can sell it. A lot of people are aging their bourbon now 3 years or even 5 years. But you got to think, you've produced this, you've expensed the inventory costs, the storage costs, the labor costs, and you've made nothing off this for 12 years and you can pick it up at your BevMo for 25 bucks. Like, I don't know how that works, but I'm pretty happy about the way that works.
Yeah, you have a really big distillery. That's how that works.
Mm-hmm.
You're distilling all kinds of stuff, and you can stick this other stuff back in the corner and just pull it out in 12 years. Round two for me, I'm going with another staple of my bar, Blanton's. They are the original single barrel bourbon whiskey. Got a little more info on Blanton's that all, and I imagine that you guys have all seen Blanton's. They got the little guy on the horse is on the
Yeah, that's great, isn't it?
the bottle
really
top
like
there. Yeah, it's just so good. It's not super expensive. I mean, it's 50, 60 bucks a bottle. It's not cheap, but it's not horribly expensive when you start talking about bourbon. So they give you a lot of information on their website, and I actually didn't even know there's like 4 or 5 different releases of Blanton's. I didn't know much about it. I've never done any research. They've got the straight from the barrel, the gold edition, original single barrel, which is what I'm drinking. There's a special reserve as well. So I imagine they do get a little bit pricey as you go up the ladder here. But they'll give you some information. The recipe is corn, rye, and malted barley. Okay, now John, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
So on here they tell me that the still proof is 70%,
Yes.
which is 140 proof.
Yep.
But the entry proof is 62.5, which is 125. So what's the difference between those two?
So I mean, it's complicated, but the simplified version is, and I hope I get this right, the entry-level spirit can't be higher, and I think it's 90% alcohol by volume. So that's by bourbon law, and I'm not super up to speed, so it could be 95, but it's around the 90 mark. That's your entry level. Now, when you bottle it, you're not going to bottle it at 90%, and when you sit it in a cask, you're probably going to lose some of the alcohol by evaporation. What's interesting with bourbon is you're not necessarily going to lose as much alcohol as you would with a Scotch. A lot of Scotches, when you age over time, they reduce in alcohol volume, or an alcohol percentage, I should say. So if you start out at 85 or 80 or even 70, it's going to bottle much lower than that. You know, it's going to bottle between 50 and 60, and you may even decide to water it down. Like my Elijah Craig is 47%, and I can guarantee you that it didn't enter the cask at 47%. It probably entered the cask around 68 or 69. So some of that's going to be them watering it, and I shouldn't say water it down. That's how they sort of define the palate when they bottle it. They want it at this strength and this flavor profile. And to be frank, a lot of people can't drink alcohol that's 55% plus because it's gonna. I mean, for a lot of it's like smoking a full-bodied cigar. It's gonna blow your palate away.
Yeah. So just for reference here, this the still proof was 70%. The entry proof was 62.5. It's bottled at 46.5.
Exactly. Yeah. And that makes sense. That's about where most people are going to want to drink it, between 43 and 48.
Yeah, and this is a bourbon that you want to drink. The tasting notes, they tell you get some on the nose. You'll get a spicy aroma of dried citrus and orange peel with hints of vanilla and caramel. And that's actually what I taste. Is really more. I get some citrus and some caramel and some vanilla in there. And that's kind of what they're saying. The finish, you get some vanilla, some honey, some citrus. It's best served straight on ice or used in a premium cocktail. We've actually, my wife and I did I think we did old fashions, and we made them with Blanton's, we made them with Booker's, and Bullet. The Booker's was just way too hot, but the Blanton's old fashioned, forget about it, man. That was so good. I mean, it's good enough on its own, but when you mix it into an old fashioned, it's fantastic. But I'm going to get in and start working on this pairing here. So, Victor, what's your second?
Well, yeah. I mean, that sounds really good. That old fashioned. I mean, from the description that you gave with the Blantons, with the bitters and the old fashioned, that just sounds like. I'm gonna have to try that.
I think
I've never had a Blanton's Old Fashioned before.
The only time I'd had one, like when you go to wherever you go to the bar, and that's kind of their specialty cocktails, of Blanton's, this, or whatever. When we were in New Orleans, there was one of the bars that we went to. They had I forget what I forget what it was, but the scotch they used in it was the Auchentoshan 3-Wood, which I thought was interesting because we talked about that on the show. It seems kind of an odd scotch to use in a particular cocktail, but this was a kind of a upscale bar, I guess. But yeah, if you come across a Blanton's Old Fashioned or you want to make one at home, if you've got a good recipe, yeah, it's definitely worth trying.
All right, so I'm up. I moved over to Lagavulin 16, and I don't know. Is everyone familiar with Lagavulin?
Love Lagavulin.
Is that like a? I mean, it seems to be popular for me. I mean, I always have it in stock. I love it.
I actually, and it's funny, I was just talking to John about this. I was at Costco yesterday, and that's where I get my big bottle of Bullet, the big bottle of Bullet for $39, and that lasts a while in the house. We've got a gigantic decanter that just says whiskey on the front, so we always put it in there. But they had Lagavulin. They get some interesting stuff at Costco. They had some Japanese whiskey too. The one, John, that we did on our first show, and the bottle looks like Yamazaki, but it was something different.
It's not the Hibiki, is it?
No. It's in a green glass bottle.
Hakushu?
Yeah, I think that's the one.
Tastes like green apple.
Yeah, they had that one there. They've had Hibiki in the past. That's where I bought that. But they had Lagavulin. I can't remember how much it was, but it wasn't.
You said it was like some ungodly cheap price, like $68 or something like that.
It was something like that.
Costco.
Yeah, the Costco by us, man. They get bombers of craft beer too. It's surprising the selection that we get. I mean, I go in there and I'm buying, Rogue double chocolate stouts and things like that. And ours has a really good wine selection too. It's kind of surprising.
Good to see you pushing a full shopping cart full of booze out of Costco.
at noon on a Tuesday. That's the best part.
That's great. You got to take some pictures and tweet that.
Just do awesome. And my slice of pizza from the food court.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So tell us about Lagavulin.
No, that's all right. I mean, well, let me tell you guys first what I normally do when I don't do this all the time, but whenever I'm really pairing Lagavulin or I'd say some scotches. It doesn't really work with all scotches, but I have a humidor that I keep between 62 and 65%. So basically, you're smoking a drier cigar, and you're going to get different flavors, different tastes, different notes out of the cigar. And if you haven't tried this, you'd be really surprised with the way it pairs. Specifically, this is my favorite, Lagavulin 16. It's just incredible. Now, I moved on from, I was smoking the Connecticut, I moved on to the Cedro No. 5. This is more of a sun-grown rather than a shade cigar. And all Nicaraguan. You guys are familiar with the blend. I don't have to talk about the blend. But what I find is that it gives more of that like toasty type of taste along with the peated whiskey, and I don't really know how to describe it, but it just works out so perfectly.
It's funny how a couple of flavors that you can get real specific about in this one specific cigar and this one specific scotch or whatever that I paired it with, and how they match so perfectly. Those perfect pairings really do exist. They're not that easy to find, but when you find it, you'll find yourself going back to it more and more.
You guys are going to have to try this and just let me know what your thoughts are, because, this is one thing that I absolutely love doing. I try not to smoke anything that's over 70% because I find that it just burns too hot. The humidity just burns off, and it just creates like a hot, bitter type of smoke, and that's just not preferable for me. So I typically like to smoke a drier cigar, but as you know, if you're traveling with drier cigars, they tend to get damaged. They can pop and unravel depending on climate, especially if you're taking them on an airplane, it could totally ruin a cigar. So if you're traveling on an airplane, you might want to keep them at 70, 70 plus. But if you're just home and drinking scotch or whiskey or whatever your preference is, try keeping a humidor or something right around 65 or a little bit lower if you can maintain it. It's going to take a little bit more attention when you're running a humidor that low, because you don't want it to get too low. You'll dry all the oils out of the tobacco and it'll just get ruined. But the taste is just incredible with the pairing.
What I think about Lagavulin, I know a lot of people sort of associate Lagavulin with being this overpoweringly peaty.
It just sounds like it is.
It does, right? Like
Yeah.
you think, okay, Lagavulin's for serious whiskey drinkers, and the funny thing is that Lagavulin is one of the more elegant scotches out there. The peat that's in there doesn't overpower the flavor profile. It's balanced, and I mean, that's I think the key word with a lot of Islay whiskeys is, I mean, if you don't like peat, you don't like peat, but it's not going to blow your face off with the peat smoke. It's balanced with the rest of the flavor, so it's not going to just blow up the rest of the profile. And Lagavulin's just so elegant.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I drink Lefroy often. I don't really know. Maybe you can recommend some other peated scotches that are a little bit higher than Lefroy on the peat scale. I don't really know of any. I mean, that seems to be the highest that I know of. So, but that really works well with the Coyote Negro, I find. That's the one that I pair a lot with the Brazilian Matafina. I like the way that one works a lot.
I think Ardbeg just released, is it the Supernova? I think it's the Supernova, and it's, again, it's funny because you talk about like phenols, which is parts per million of peat, which is how they rank peatiness, and the Supernova I think is like in the high 80s or 90s. It's a very peaty whiskey, but again they've blended it, they've produced that in such a way that it's not just blasting your face off with peat. It's still got a lot of other stuff going on. I think the Smokehead, which I've got in my cabinet, I think it's like 120 or 110 parts per million. And I call that the, if I really want to be alone in the living room, if I really want my girlfriend to just leave me alone, I pop the cap off that and everyone clears out.
Smells like burnt tires.
It smells like burnt tires and tar, yeah.
That sounds delicious.
Right? Exactly.
That's one of those acquired tastes, though, man. I mean, and I've told the story on here a couple of times, how I got introduced to Lefroy. The truncated version is my wife bought me a bottle just randomly, and I'd never had it before. And the first night I had it, it took me the whole night to get through one glass, and I had ice and everything in there to cool it off. But since she was nice enough to buy it for me and it was a gift, I pretended like I really liked it, and I didn't. And she would comment that I wasn't drinking it very often, so I would make a point of drinking it whenever she was around. And by the time I got about a third of the way into the bottle, it was like, well, I'm kind of enjoying this now. And then by the time the bottle was gone, I said, I got to get another bottle of this because it's such a unique flavor.
I like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a huge, especially in the wintertime. I mean, my rotation is almost exclusively peated whiskey, so Talisker, Oban, Lefroy, Lagavulin, Ardbeg. I mean, it seems like, I mean, obviously Scotland is kind of rainy and gets cold, but they don't get really, really cold. But it seems like they've really got a sense of this is the drink to have when it's really kind of gross outside and you're sitting by the fire, and you want something that just warms you to your bones. You pick up a peated whiskey, and that's the way to go.
We got an interesting comment here in the chat room. Sorry, I kind of interrupted, but I was mentioning that there's the different types of Blantons, and this is a comment from Anthony Russo. He says that only one of the Blantons is available in the U.S. The other three versions that I talked about are only international. It's the brand is owned by a Japanese company. I didn't realize that.
Pretty sure that's Suntory Beam.
Yeah, I when it comes to that kind of thing, I have no idea who owns what and where it goes or any of that. If it's in my bar, I'll learn a little bit about it, but I'll really just learn if I like it. It's like Victor was saying, I'm good at drinking it. I don't really know too much about the process or anything like that, which is why I like doing this show and asking John questions like, well, here's 3 different types. It says there's 3 different proofs. What does that mean? Granted, I forgot what he said already, but I'll go back and watch it again. And then for maximum retention, you got to watch it 2 or 3 times. But to go back to this pairing is much better. Much, much better. The sweetness on the front in the Blantons really matches that sweetness that you're getting from the cigar from the wrapper. The finish has kind of a citrusy note on the some citrus and some vanilla on there from the Blantons, and it's bringing out a nice spice in the cigar. The complementary flavors really complement each other. That's a horrible sentence, but it's much, much nicer than what I was doing before. This is the kind of thing where I could sit down, fire up my cigar, and just have the bottle of Blanton sit next to me, and refill it a few times and have a nice little evening. Because this pairing is really, really nice. Perfect fall pairing. It's a nice warm feeling to it. Victor, I don't know if you've paired it with Blanton's or not. This is a pairing that I enjoy.
No, I haven't tried it yet, but I certainly will, for sure. I mean, that's an easy one to put on the schedule for me.
But now it's so funny. Now that I know that I can't get my hands on those other 3 Blanton styles, I feel like I really need them. Isn't that weird? Isn't that funny how that works? Like, I didn't even know they existed and I didn't care about them, but now that I know that I can't have them, I have to have them.
Gotta have them. Gotta have them.
Oh, man. Anyway.
This Elijah Craig, I mean, you nose it, and it's like stewed fruit and Christmas cake. And what I really like about this, because a lot of bourbons, and I think you mentioned this, Rob, a lot of bourbon can be really, really hot or spicy. And I enjoy spicy bourbon. I mean, I enjoy a spicy cigar too. But the problem with pairing is that if there's too much spiciness in the finish, it's kind of going to blow over the flavors of whatever you're pairing with. And what I think is really nice about this Elijah Craig is that it does have some spiciness to it, but it's a medium minus spice, so it's not running over the cigar. And it's a different pairing than my first pairing, but it still works. I'm still, we've gone away from the salty, creamy to like a stewed fruit, rich Christmas cake sweetness with the cigar, and it's almost like vanilla cream and stewed fruit. Like it just good pairing.
Yeah, that does sound good. How about you, Victor? How's the Lagavulin treating you?
I'm gonna drink to that. That sounds wonderful. The Lagavulin, it just delivers. It's still even with the cigar. Like, so, for example, for me, the more you smoke and the more you sip the Lagavulin, you kind of get that palate coating. So for some folks, I imagine that the flavors start to dissipate. They really don't notice the nuances of the flavor combination, but I got to tell you, this is still going real strong. It's still popping in the peat area. Like John says, it's not really super overwhelming. It's very balanced, and the aroma's there, the taste is there. You're still getting that little bit of the peaty bite, and I mean, if you haven't done the 65% humidity, you have to do it. You have to.
All right, I'm setting up. I've got a desktop humidor that's was the first humidor that I ever got. Actually, it was a gift from my wife for Christmas 8, 9, 10 years ago, and she had no idea what she was getting herself into. But I still have that humidor, and there's a few things in it, but I don't pay too much attention to it. So moving forward, that's going to be between 63 and 65%, and I'm gonna try some different things with that. You've sold
try it.
That.
Yeah, try it. I mean, even if it's just like a 25 count glass top or something, an inexpensive humidor that you could just throw a small humidification device in, or some Bovida packs. I always throw, like, for example, when I take the cedar off the Tortuga, I throw the cedar into the box. I never throw the cedar strips away. I always throw these in right into the humidor. So, just to keep getting that fresh cedary aroma back into the tobacco, and it really works out nice.
That's funny. I've got a stack of those too. I do the same thing. because I've got a cooler that I keep a lot of stuff in, and the cooler's not lined with cedar, obviously. So whenever I've got a cedar sleeve or something, I always crack it open and throw it in there. There's got to be 100 of them in there. Who knows? That's funny. I thought I was the only person who did that. I've never talked about that before.
No, I do it all the time. And and just to add a little tip, I always forget to tell people this. I know a lot of people like to light the cedar on fire to light their cigar with, right? And I do that too myself, and I think that's a great thing to do. But the one thing that a lot of people do seem to forget is that there's a piece of tape on there, and you could probably see it shining in the light there, the little bit of light that I have. And all I got to say is please take the tape off before you light the cedar on fire and light your cigar, because it's just going to kill the cigar if you light that tape on fire.
You don't like that chemical flavor in there?
Yeah, the bisphenol A that you're ingesting right into your mouth.
I don't even know what that is, but it sounds bad. It sounds bad. If you can't pronounce it, don't eat it or don't smoke it.
Just a reminder to our audience, you are listening or watching Sharing Our Pairings, episode 37, Whiskey with Victor Vitale. A reminder to our audience, we are broadcast around the world live on Cigar Federation app, and rebroadcast on podcast and Armed Forces Radio Network. Be sure to check out the new Oktoberfest from Quesada Cigars. We've got a huge promotion with great prizes, including Oktoberfest Steins, which, if you're a beer drinker, I mean, you got to get your hands on some Steins. We've also got some limited edition boxes of Oktoberfest, and I know you guys are weasels out there, so that'll be pretty exciting when that goes. I'm really excited to get into my my last whiskey here. We featured it on a show. I think it was our last show. It's the Ardbeg Ugadel, which I'm sure is not how it's pronounced. No bueno in the Gaelic. But again, you can see it's got that rich amber color to it. This is a bottle that I fell in love with. It's a limited edition. They get the name from their water source, which I love the romance they put into their whiskey. The idea that they'll name a whiskey after the water source, and they say it's traditional deep smoky notes with luscious sweet raisiny tones of old ex-sherry casks, and that is kind of everything that I love in a whiskey. Mixing sherry and raisins, and you nose it, and you just get this rich. It's like stewed fruit, sherry, and peat all mixed in together. And I'm gonna start sipping because I'm pretty eager to get going here.
The way you described that, and that's one thing that we've learned, or at least that I've learned about myself, is sherry casked Scotch is really where I want to be. And I don't know actually if this is a sherry. It is a sherry cask. There you go. Look at that.
Aberlour, right?
Yeah. So the one that I'm going with here is it Aberlour? Is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm.
I've got the Aberlour 16. This was a gift. I get good gifts.
Yeah, I need friends like that.
Yeah, this was a Christmas gift from my wife last year. I'm really easy when it comes to buying gifts for it. It's like, just buy me booze or buy me like useless toys. I'm like a 12-year-old with the toys, but I don't know, just like a regular guy with the booze, I guess. But so yeah, it's sherry casks. It's got two types of casks actually, traditional oak and sherry. So this is double cask matured, and they the little tagline for it on their website is "Golden Nectar in Perfect Harmony." I don't really think I need to describe it any more than that because that's perfect. But some of the tasting notes, the nose is creamy with sweet raisin and a spicy nuttiness. I get a lot of floral notes on the nose, but it does have a creamy texture to it, which sounds weird to say that the smell of something has a creamy texture to it, but it's not a biting kind of aroma that you're getting from it. It's really, really smooth. On the palate, it's a smooth blend of floral and spicy flavors paired with sweet plum fruitiness and gentle oakiness. The finish is gloriously long. God, I love the guy who wrote this. With a warm, honeyed spiciness to it. So everything I've had from Aberlour, I've really enjoyed. The 12 is it's also double casked, is great. The 16 is great. We've had the Oh man, Abundant.
Abuna, yeah.
That, yeah, we've had that. Oh, you know what? The 12 that I had may have just been the sherry cask. I'm not sure because there's two different ones.
Mm-hmm.
No, I had the 12-year. I'm looking at their website. I've had the regular 12-year-old double cask, but the 12-year-old sherry cask is now on my list to purchase because that's right up my alley. Haven't really got into the pairing here yet, so I'm curious to see how this is going to go because this is a very different flavor profile than the two that I had to begin with. So I'm going to jump in here. Victor, you have a third one, right?
I do, yeah. That sounds really delicious. Can you show that label again? I want to see what that is.
The Arbor. It's this 16. This is the double cask matured. Runs about 75 a bottle. It's akin to Oban, about the same price range.
All right, yeah, I like Oban.
Of the Oban 14, the flavor profile is different, but they're kind of in the same price range. So it's not comparable in flavor. This is a bit sweeter. Oban's got that peatiness to it, which I've been kind of on an Oban kick. I actually got a bottle of Oban for Christmas last year as well. But as you can see, I haven't really gotten too far into this. This was Christmas last year, and there's still a lot of it left. This is more of a special occasion whiskey for me, and since Victor was coming, that's a special occasion, so I brought it out.
Thank you.
I love hanging out with you, man. And it's funny. I rewatched our interview from IPCPR, and John, you had to cut so much out of that interview, man. There's so many different little cutbacks.
Yeah, what were we doing?
Just having some fun, we're talking, hanging.
There's going to be a lot in the B-roll as soon as we get the B-roll posted. That's going to be a fun video. Hanging out with you is always fun, and
we got to do like a Scotch meetup or something,
we're going to Scotland. We've already discussed that.
Yeah, when are we going to do that? We got to do that like real soon.
Yeah, that might that might be I might have to plan for that one a little bit.
What do we need to do? Like 12 months, 18 months? I mean, let's put the time on it right now.
I need to get a job first. I think that would be step one.
We might be able to do like a GoFundMe page, to see if anyone feels sorry for us. Hey, we really want to go to Scotland to drink some scotch. Can somebody help us out?
I'm not above that, man. I'll do that. See if somebody will. We can. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll talk about it offline. But that would be a lot of fun. My wife wants to go to Scotland. We spent about 10 days in Ireland, so we were close. But we didn't get across. But my father-in-law has been to Ireland, and he talked about it like it was the greatest trip in his life. So, I think that's a trip we could do. But we'll talk about it offline. But what is the last pairing that you're going with?
I have. I think, John. I was while you were talking about yours, I was moving my lamp here with my my Sirius operation. But I think we have the same. Yeah. We have the same thing going on here.
It's so good.
So I was first introduced to this when it made Scotch of the Year. I don't even remember what year it was. I think it was like 2009 or 2010. Do you know?
I don't offhand, but 2009 I think, and Jim Murray. I'm not going to get into Jim Murray, but Jim Murray named it his Whiskey of the Year in 2009.
All right, so that's probably when I had my first bottle, and I mean, again, the guy that I called when we were at the trade show, I go into his store. I mean, I almost exclusively buy all of my stuff there, wines, whiskey, everything. A very good friend of mine, and they were there. I guess I met whoever is the owner or the national sales guy or whoever it was. They were there, and they were signing bottles, and they had the magazine out with the rating and everything, and it was like really difficult. I mean, there was people like jumping over each other to get this bottle of Scotch, and I just immediately fell in love with it. It's fantastic. So I don't know. I think you already said what you're getting out of it. I don't know if my description is going to be contrary, but this has way more peat, and you'll know what percentage over me, but this has way more peat than Lagavulin, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Ardbeg tends to be one of the peatier whiskeys in the market for sure.
Yeah, now this is another one that I would pair with what you're smoking, the 500, or I'm actually about to light up. I brought for that one, I brought the 700, which is a 7 by 60. That's what I'm going to fire up to pair with the Ardbeg.
That's a
And
big cigar.
yeah, I'm actually gonna get to that right now.
Great. Well, I'll talk a little bit about Ardbeg, and so we talked a little bit about them in the last show, but they're founded in 1815, so they're one of the older distilleries out there. They produce 1.1 million liters of spirit a year, which is not a lot for whiskey standards, which is 290,000 freedom gallons, as I like to put it.
Love a Freedom gallon.
It's freedom gallons all the way. Now, they did close down in 1983 and then reopened in 1989. And what's interesting is you talk about Lagavulin, and I think Lagavulin, I think they also get, because Ardbeg gets their malt, their peated malt from Port Ellen Maltings. Port Ellen used to be a distillery, and it's a darn shame that they're closed. But all they do now as a business is produce peated malt for the other distilleries. So we already mentioned it was named the Whiskey of the Year in 2009 by Jim Murray. What's interesting about this is it's a peated whiskey that's finished in an ex-sherry, and then they combine it together to get this particular taste. It is non-chill filtered, so some of the suspended molecules, proteins, are filtered out to get the flavor they're looking for. And what's interesting is this is one of the strongest whiskeys we're tasting tonight. It's 54.2%, so it's a big step up, but it's interesting how it's elegant. And it doesn't taste like a 54%. I'll tell you that right now. It goes down very, very easily.
Wow, 54%. That is pretty hot.
Yeah, it's. I think that classifies as true cask strength. Anything over 48%. I've had whiskeys, 63, 65%, but at 54%, it drinks like it's at 45. Like it's so good.
And that was actually I just happened to pull it up because you guys made me want a bottle of it. The 2013 Whiskey Bible World Whiskey of the Year, for whatever that's worth.
2013?
Yeah, the Whiskey Bible, whatever. I don't know what the Whiskey Bible sounds like a pretty important book, but I don't know. Yeah, it's funny. You had mentioned, John, you said like Christmas cake or something? Or was that your last one?
Well, that was the last one, but this one's like, I can't even say, it would take me 20 minutes just to describe the nose on this. But well,
they describe it here as full-flavored, rich and smooth with an intriguing balance of sweet, savory, and smoky flavors. They call it a Christmas pudding on fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you can imagine that you're sitting around a fire at December with a Christmas
throw some
cake.
Christmas pudding in there.
Yeah, that's what it's like. And I think again we talk about Ardbeg being one of the peatier whiskeys, but I don't know what your thoughts are, Victor, but it doesn't taste as peaty to me as like a Lafroig or a Lafroig quarter cask.
No, I agree. I would say it's probably down a notch on the peat level. You could definitely taste the sherry in there, but it's not overwhelming sherry like Glenfiddich or something like that. It's like syrupy to me. It almost has that but not sweet like syrup. Like it has the feeling, like it really coats your palate, in a good way. It's just so good. I'm kind of at a loss for words here. That's how good it is. I just want to. It's like the kind of scotch that just makes you want to keep drinking it, because every sip you take, you can't really get all the tastes. You can't wrap your head around all the different tastes that are going on. So I'm just going to take another sip so I can try and figure it out.
So maybe as we wrap it up here, we can talk about some of what we thought was our personal favorite pairings for tonight. Rob, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, I'll just go over this pairing with the Arbalor 16. It's good. I think the profile of this particular scotch, given that it's a bit sweeter, it doesn't really have that spice to it, and it's not really peaty at all. I think that this would pair phenomenally with your Connecticut. Victor. I think it would pair really, really well with the Connecticut. The Coyote Negro runs over it a little bit. I get a little bit of sweetness from it, but that's about it. For me, the hands down winner, and it's not even close because two of mine were kind of misses. But even if my other two were pretty good, I think this pairing with this Blanton's is phenomenal. I would recommend it to anyone who has a bottle of Blanton's at home and a Coyote Negro sitting in the humidor. I would take those both out at the same time and enjoy them together. Very good.
Victor, if you had to pick a favorite, what would your favorite be tonight?
It's always Lagavulin. I drink the Lagavulin 16. I always pair it with the Cedro number 5, which is a 5.5 by 48. And I mean, for me personally, there is no other pairing that is better than that. It's just an incredible pairing. And again, don't fear testing out that 65% when you do the pairing. You're going to be really, really surprised, pleasantly surprised, and just go for it. Try it. Oh, and if you're not a peated Scotch person, don't fear Lagavulin. Like John says, it's not overwhelming. I guess your first time, it's going to be a little bit different if you're used to drinking like Glenlivet or something like that. That for me, tends to be a little bit more on the sweet side. But just try to Lagavulin. It's really worth it.
I always kind of liken the peated whiskeys is the first time you step up from a medium-bodied cigar to something with broadleaf or San Andreas Maduro, and it's a significant shift from the other profiles you're out there, and it is sometimes peat is an acquired taste, as Rob was mentioning. He went through an entire bottle before he acquired a taste for it. I used to hate peated whiskey, and now I have 11 or 12 peated whiskeys in my cabinet, and each of them have their own flavor profile. Because peat isn't one-dimensional, just like tobacco isn't one-dimensional. You can add so many other flavors you can blend a whiskey with so many other flavors in there, depending on the cask you use, to get so many different things. So don't be afraid. Try something new.
It's like Lajero, right?
Lajero.
You put some Lajero in your cigar, it doesn't have to be the predominant flavor. Or it doesn't have to be a really strong cigar just because it has Lajero in it. So I don't know. That's how I would describe it.
Yeah, try and balance it too. Like for example, the Coyote Negro is a little bit more of a sweeter cigar. That Brazilian Matafina really raises the sweetness. Mm-hmm. So that's why I like to pair it with a peated Scotch, because the peated Scotch isn't sweet like some of the other Scotches. So like a Glenlivet, I would put with a Habano Ecuador Sun-Grown or even a Connecticut Shade. That's what I think works really well with a sweet Scotch, or even like a cognac or something like that. I would dial it down to a Connecticut Shade. I personally, I wouldn't smoke a sweet cigar with a cognac, but that's just my personal opinion. Same thing with like a port wine. I wouldn't smoke a sweet cigar with a port wine. I think you just have it would just be, the sweetness would just be kind of like fighting each other, in my experience, So I kind of like doing that balance thing all the time, where if one thing is sweet, then you got to try to, make it even on the scale. But that's me.
It's all about balance. Got to find your
balance.
center.
Thanks very much for all of our listeners for tuning in to Sharing Our Pairings episode 37. Make sure to check out our cigar chat tomorrow night, Thursday. We're going to have a pretty interesting show with small guy, tiny guy.
I don't know if most people have heard of him.
Willie Herrera, he's just a short little guy. You might have heard of him. He's going to be on with Rob and Logan. It's going to be a pretty interesting show. I want to thank everyone for tuning in live, and of course all our podcast listeners and our Armed Forces Radio Network listeners out there. Thanks very much for tuning in. Appreciate it.
We'll be back next week.
We'll be back next week. So just a reminder to our audience, and maybe people out there aren't aware, we'll be running Sharing Our Pairings every Wednesday. So 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific, and 6 p.m. Mountain Standard, which is the only standard that matters. Thanks very much for tuning in. Drink better, drink less.
Cheers. And
we're back. Now, we're still live, broadcast around the world, But now we are not broadcast on the Armed Forces Radio Network. Not that that matters, because Victor, you're a
Victor's a
classy
classy guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're just a classy guy.
He's not going to drop too many F-bombs. I mean, feel free, but, you know, Logan feels the need. He has to do it. He's got to say fuck. He's got to say shit. You don't have to. You can say whatever you want, but, you know. So I had a question, actually. I wanted to go back to the Ardbeg, because I pulled it up here on Bevmo, and it's on sale.
Uh-oh.
Club Bev.
What's the Club Bev sale price?
$69.
Oh, come on now. Really?
It's the regular price. Well, the regular price is $90, and it's on the Club Bev sale. If you ever go to Bevmo, you have to get Club Bev. It saves $20 on a bottle of Ardbeg. The Ardbeg Ugadal.
Ugadal, yeah.
Or whatever. And I think, John, you said this earlier. I think our new show tagline should be, I don't think I pronounced that right, because we never do. But,
No.
I mean, we could be talking about some Canadian beers, which I love. Du DCDL, or however you say it.
So now that one I can pronounce, because what limited French I have is limited to alcohol. It's Du de Ciel. And you know we've got a fondness for everything Quebec brewery. I don't know what it is about Quebec, but man, do they produce some bloody good beer.
Yeah, that's everything I've had from them. There was one that I had that it didn't blow me away. I think it was their rye, or it might have been a spiced wheat ale or something. They do some interesting stuff, but I'm getting off topic. What I wanted to ask about the Ardbeg, when you talk about the peat level or the smoky level of it, how would that compare to, say, like an Oban?
So I've said this before on previous shows. My recommendation is if you're looking to get into peated whiskey, and you know, there are people that can just jump straight into a Lafroig and be like, this is the greatest thing I've ever tasted. But in my experience, most people are going to be turned off if they just jump, you know, both feet into a really, really peated whiskey like an Ardbeg or a Lafroig, and it might turn you off. So I call Talisker 10, and maybe Talisker should be sponsoring us, but I call Talisker 10 the training wheels of whiskey for the peated level, because to me, Talisker is campfire. It's not peat. It's just got this smokiness to it, and it's not overwhelming the flavor profile. It's just like you taste the whiskey and then you get a little bit of campfire and you're like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And that's how I kind of got into peated whiskey. And then, you know, from the Talisker you go up to an Oban, which is more of the peaty style, but it's not blowing you away. It's not super briny. It's not blowing your nostrils out. And, you know, you acquire a taste for Oban, and then you get into the Lagavulins, and then you get into the Lafroigs, and then you get into the Ardbegs, and all of a sudden, you're pouring an Ardbeg Ugadel at 54% going, man, I just love that, you know, toasted campfire with tar and tires, and it's just so tasty, and it is.
So what I'm going to glean from what you just said is that it's probably a step or two above Oban, like an Oban 14, but it's probably a step or two below Lafroig.
You know, it's so weird, and I think Victor talked about this, is that it is peated, and you get the peatiness, but it's not the dominant flavor profile. I mean, I drink a Lafroig because I want peat and salt, and that's, you know, there's a lot of other flavors in there, but like Lafroig is peat while I'm sitting on a beach, smelling fish and ocean. That's
that brine. You used brine earlier. Yeah, that was a really good term for it. I like that a lot.
A good, like the briniest. The way I learned about briny Scotch was Old Pultani. Have either of you ever had that?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not expensive, but it's I'm not sure what. I think it's a Speyside.
Yep.
If memory serves correct, and it is like super briny, and it was good, but it's such a different flavor profile from like a sherry cask or something like that, where you get more sweetness. It's very different, and that's what's the interesting thing about Scotch. And I'm still my Scotch knowledge is so small, embryonic, if you will. Is that a word?
I think if it isn't a word, you just keep.
If it isn't, it is now.
You coined it.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, you guys get the idea. I mean, it's blossoming, so to speak. But that was we went on a little thing where I tried to get one thing from each different region, and I think that's how I ended up with that bottle of Lafroig. But the Old Pultani, I mean, it wasn't the best. and I think it's like $35 a bottle or something. It was solid, but it really gives you that briny flavor in the same way that when you taste that Lefroy, I mean, you know you're getting that peated, that ultra peated flavor. It's kind of a good way to taste that and get a really good idea of what that briny flavor is.
Yeah, I mean, again, Ardbeg is definitely the heavier peated spectrum of Islay whiskeys, but the word I keep coming back to is elegant. It's not a punch you in the face peated whiskey. It's elegant, especially with that sherry cask on the Ugadel. And Victor said, I could sit here with this bottle and just enjoy it all night, and every sip I'm getting something different. Like I might get a little pear, and then maybe I get a little seaweed, but just every sip something new.
Yeah, I think that's going to find its way into my bar, I think.
It's worth it.
For $69, come on now.
It's worth it.
Yeah, I mean that's on the higher end of what I like to spend on a bottle, which is odd. Like we'll spend that much on a bottle of wine, but when to buy a bottle of Scotch, it's like I have to talk myself into it. But a bottle of Scotch lasts exponentially longer than a bottle of wine. So.
It does, right? Yeah. So the Ardbeg, let me tell you what it is for me. Like the Ardbeg lasts a lot longer because I really go through the Lagavulin quickly and Lefroy quickly. But when I don't know what I want, you never have those nights where you just don't know what you want to drink. What you want to. Yeah. The Ardbeg always fits the bill. I always go. It's like, all right, well, I can't figure it out. I'm just going Ardbeg, and it's like perfect.
I'm trying to think what that is in my bar.
Don't you have a bourbon that you said is like your go-to bourbon that you just as soon as the bottle runs out you buy a new bottle?
Well, I've got unfortunately I have a few of those. One bottle that I've kind of fallen in love with, and my wife loves it too, is Booker's. And Booker's, I think it's a cask strength. It's hot. I mean, there's some, it's got some teeth to it. But the bourbon that's becoming kind of the one that when the bottle's gone, we go out and get another one, is the Blanton's. And I hate to use this term, but it's dynamic in the sense that I can have it neat. I can throw a couple ice cubes in there and still be okay with it. I can put a little water in there and it's a different experience. Or I can throw it in an old fashioned and really, really enjoy it. So I like to have that kind of stuff in my bar. Now, something like a Lefroy it's not a utility player. It is what it is. When you want it, you want it. And like you were saying, Victor, that the Ardbeg lasts longer for you because it's not something that you're always going to want. But I think I have a feeling that before the weekend is out, there's going to be a bottle of this Ardbeg Ugadel and a bottle of the Lagavulin 16 in my bar because I know where to get both of them, and I know they're both on sale. I think it's going to happen. And this, my wife and I are celebrating our 5-year wedding anniversary on Saturday. So I think that that will be. I'll go out and sneak a few bottles, and we can just enjoy those over the weekend.
Do it. You won't be sorry.
Yeah, I think John, did you send me some of that Ardbeg?
I don't even know. I mean, I sent you so many bottles.
You've sent me so much stuff.
I think I did.
I think we had it on a show before.
I think I did. I mean, we've got a lot of whiskey coming up, and I think we talked a little bit about this offline, Victor. But it sounds like when we have our Japanese Whiskey 2.0, it sounds like you're the guy we need to have on our Japanese Whiskey 2.0 show.
I'd love to be on if you'll have me.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Now we do have an audience question, which I have not asked until now because we're having such a good time, and I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this. This is from Bob Dog, and Bob Dog loves participating and sharing our pairings. Thanks very much for your question. This is a question for you, Victor, and he wants to say that first of all, the Coyote Negra is simply amazing, great job, and he wants to know, do you have any line extensions planned for that cigar?
Yeah, I do actually. I'm working on line extensions for all 4 of the styles that I have. I think on the video that Rob was talking about earlier that was recently posted, you could see that I go through the size chart and I say I'm working on extensions for all four. So really, I'm trying a whole bunch of different vitolas with the Brazil Matafina, and how do I put this? I tend to like thinner ring gauges, not Lancero,
Like a Corona Extra kind of thing.
but yeah, like
a Lonsdale, a nice,
yeah, like a
nice
Lonsdale.
6x44. Ooh, baby.
5.5 by 48 is truly my favorite, but the overall market really doesn't bear it, so I try not to lean in that direction, but I am looking for something else to release as soon as possible in the Coyote Negro. So right now it ranges from a 54 to a 60, and I really want to drop something in there like right in between. And thank you for the kind words, by the way, on the Coyote Negro. I really appreciate you saying that.
Well, I don't know if Bob Dog was around when we did this, but the Coyote Negro was launched through Cigar Federation. The first people to smoke it were the Cigar Federation Cigar of the Month Club. That was one of the cool things that we did that. It was a year and a half ago.
Yeah, that was almost 2 years ago.
Wow. And that was the first time that it was smoked. I remember we did a show and right around the time that was started hitting the members who received it. So they were the first people to smoke it. And this has become it's probably a tie for my second favorite of your line. The Connecticut shade has taken the cake.
So good.
When we smoked that at IPCPR when you gave us one, and we're sitting there, we're lighting up, and we're bullshitting and we're hanging out, and we're walking away, and John, Jared, and I were all smoking it.
Three different palettes.
Oh, we all have very different palettes, and we all kind of stopped at the same moment, like, this is fucking good. It's so funny that a cigar with such a classic profile can feel different now. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's and we're walking away, and we all got back to the hotel that night. We're thinking, man, we've got to review this. And we go through some of our stuff. We're like, oh shit, we smoked the samples already. But we've got some more samples now. And actually, is Bob Dog still here? He probably is.
I think he is.
Victor, you sent me a bunch of cigars. Some of those are going to make their way to John. Some of them are going to make their way to Bob Dog too, so he can get a sampling of them, of the entire line. But that Connecticut, man, it's such a good cigar. But the Coyote Negro is right up there with the Cedro for me. Oh, they're coming to get you.
Yeah, you hear that?
Yeah, they're coming to get you.
It's a whiskey police.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
So that's I'm really, and it's funny because this is such a different profile from your other cigars. I do want to smoke the box press. I haven't had that one yet.
Yeah, give it a shot. I mean, just back to the Connecticut real quick. I mean, I pretty much said it all in that video that we did at the IPCPR. I mean, I was really nervous coming out with it because my audience tends to be the craft audience, which, it's like beer terminology. I mean, you take someone that's drinking a Dogfish Head IPA 90 and you try to serve them like, a light beer or something like that, and they're going to just be like, whoa, no, this is not us. And, that was like the feeling that I had right before I released it. And I really worked long and hard on that Connecticut because I wanted to offer something extremely traditional, but I didn't want to disappoint my audience. And I got to say, from the orders that we got at the show and the orders that we keep accruing, it's been fantastic.
I mean, I think there's sorry to cut you off, Rob. I think there's a stigma attached to Connecticut, and there's the stigma of, well, it's a Connecticut, it's a light cigar, it's boring, whatever. And here you've got three guys who have three different palates, and every single one of us said, this is a really, really good cigar, and it's not boring. I mean, cigars aren't blended to be boring. and it's not. It's elegant, and it's got a lot of flavor transitions, and I think what we really appreciated is, and you talked about this earlier in the show, is that it finishes so cleanly on the palate that, I mean, we ran over to Twin Engine and got some coffee, and I would have been happy to sit down in a chair and just drink coffee and smoke that Connecticut for the rest of the day. That would have been my happy place.
But the interesting thing about that Connecticut, though, and the flavor profile that it offered, and we smoked it on a relatively clean palate, which, I mean, for the most part, you're going to want to smoke a Connecticut on a clean palate. You want to smoke anything on a clean palate, really. But it wasn't my first cigar of the day, and the flavor still impacted me. And I smoked one the other day, too, with some Twin Engine, actually, with the Nicaraguan Cigar Blend medium roast. And the pairing was great, and I really, really enjoyed the cigar. And we have to review it. We'll review it here pretty soon. I have to send a couple up to John so he can get it on the group review. But after smoking that, normally when I smoke a Connecticut, I think, okay, well, I want to pair it with coffee. But I want to pair that with so many different things. I want to pair it with this Arbalor 16. I think that it would be really, really good because the flavor profiles, it's got that little bit of spice to it that, I mean, you expect a little bit of a spice out of a Connecticut, not a lot. I mean, unless you're one of those more modern palate Connecticut's. But I just feel like you could pair it with so many different things. It's not pigeonholed into that, well, it's a Connecticut, I have to have it in the morning, and I have to have it with coffee. I feel like it kind of breaks that mold a little bit. And with a lot of the big boys coming out with Connecticut's this year, with the Undercrown Shade and the Damaso from Padron, I think that those cigars are really going to start getting a bit more attention now. Because really, I mean, I've smoked all three of them, and yours was the best. And I've said that
thank you.
I've said that in the comments of my reviews. I mean, of those three, if I smoked all three of them blind, which I would love to do, I think I would pick yours as my favorite because the profile is just so much more. There's so much more depth to it, and the finish is so clean. Yeah, it's one of the best Connecticut's I've smoked.
Wow, thank you. That's awesome.
No, thank you.
and I think Rob can testify to this. I came away, and again, our palate wasn't necessarily the best, but when we were discussing it back in the hotel room, I think I said, I have to get a box of these. Like, I simply have to get a box of these. And Rob knows, I'm Logan likes to bust my balls a bit on scoring, but I'm a tough scorer. I don't score a cigar unless it's really, really good. And for me to score something a box buy, it has to be really, really good. And I came away from that going, A, I want to smoke some more. B, I need to buy a box. And now as we're talking about it, I'm thinking we really need to pair that with some Japanese whiskey. That needs to be the cigar, I think, that we pair with the Japanese whiskey.
We'll have to do it in October because that's when the next shipment's due in. But, hey guys, I got to run and get a charger real quick, or else I'm going to tap out. So just give me a minute, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a phenomenal cigar, and we talked about it a lot. And sorry, I keep bugging with my eye. It's like closing on me because it's so irritated.
You need some eye rinse, dog.
No, I mean I put my eye under the faucet. I went and took a shower and just held my eye open like this and just sprayed it with water. Like there's something, I don't know what is in there, but oh god. Anyway, so yeah, I always feel like when we're talking about a cigar that's made by somebody and they happen to be on the show, like we're pandering to them a little bit. I like Victor's cigars, I really do, and I haven't smoked like I've said, the box press yet. But everything that I've smoked from Victor, and there's a lot that he has that I haven't smoked, but from the Tortuga 215 Reserva line, everything that I've smoked I've really enjoyed. The original, the Cedro, I think that's what it's called, it's a Cedro.
Cedro, yeah.
It's a really good cigar, and I forget about it sometimes because there's so much other stuff out there.
So much other stuff.
But that's one that he just sent us a little bit of everything, which was very nice of him, so we can revisit some of that stuff. And I know we've reviewed a lot of it, but a lot of it we haven't. I feel like we have him on the show all the time and we talk about his stuff, but we haven't done official reviews, I don't think, of it. So we'll have to get around on that. But that Connecticut, man, And maybe
Yeah,
it's
it was just, you know, and again, and just to testify to what Rob was saying, the sad thing about this IPCPR, and I've said this to people, they said, well, what'd you smoke that you liked? And I said, you know, I've never been to an event before and smoked as few cigars as I have, because to be honest, we're busting from booth to booth, trying to get as much content out. And if you guys haven't checked it out, go to our YouTube channel, check out the IPCPR 2015 coverage. Rob really killed it with a lot of the interviews. There's some really, really good stuff out there. If you like the interviews, if you like our show tonight, make sure to like and subscribe, because we're going to have multiple weekly shows out to you guys now. Yeah, I mean, didn't smoke a lot of cigars, and you know, now that we're coming back and smoking a lot of the IPCPRs, it still stands out for me, and I want to revisit it, and I'm looking forward to doing a true sit-down, honest, full 100% palate review of it, because you know, it's my happy place.
the interesting thing is Victor sent us some Churchill sizes of the Connecticut, and I'm not a big fan of the Churchill, but I feel like that blend, and to sit down, like that's a blend that I could sit down and smoke for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And you know, like I could sit, like here's kind of what I picture, right? I go out onto my patio, and like, so I've got a nice little overhang. I bring my laptop out, and I actually, since I have a fairly new MacBook, I didn't realize it doesn't have a disk drive in it, so I had to buy an external disk drive. So I'll go out and I'll put this on the table. I'll plug in the external disk drive. I'll get Godfather. I'll plug that in. I'm watching The Godfather, and I'm going to smoke that Connecticut Churchill for 2.5, 3 hours, and just ignore everything else that's going on in my life for 3 hours and enjoy my favorite movie and a fantastic cigar. Like I feel like that could be a good thing for me. That's my therapy.
I think for me, I'm probably going to sit down and smoke that with an NFL game. Like,
oh yeah.
I feel like that's the perfect experience where I'm just enjoying a football game and smoke that Connecticut and just relax and enjoy all that it has to offer.
But you're a Jets fan, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to be drinking too.
I'm going to be drinking too. I mean, we're going to be because we're only 9 days away from the regular season in NFL, and we're going to have to get back into some football talk.
Yeah.
After our regular season. Victor, do you follow NFL football? Are you a football fan?
I'm a Pats fan.
Oh, I'm glad you didn't hear what Rob said then. Because I'm a tried and true Jets fan.
We've talked about Victor and I have exchanged some football talk. Definitely about the Patriots, and we've also there's one thing that we've talked about on this show before, and it's a game that's called Cards Against Humanity. Victor, have you played this?
No.
Oh, well, have you ever played a game called Apples to Apples?
No.
Okay, well, Cards Against Humanity is very similar, so you're not gonna really get it, but you have to play it with. Look it up online. They call it the. It's not really like a board game, but it's kind of like a board game. But they call it it's a card game for horrible people. It's a lot of fun, and you have to play it with the right group. But the point that I was going to make isn't going to have any impact on Victor. But John, you've played the game before, right?
Many, many times, and especially down in Nicaragua when we're having some Florida Caña, getting a little sauce, smoking some cigars. That is a perfect time to be playing some Cards Against Humanity.
So with the game, you get some cards that you can fill in your own responses. And I went to your favorite website, Reddit, to find some interesting fill-ins. And there's some great stuff. There's some really, really horrible stuff on there that people have done, but there's some great stuff. And one of the cards that I filled in is Tom Brady's deflated balls. And once you look at the context of the game, that will make a little bit more sense to you. But that's one of the cards that I filled in. But so Brady's suspended for the first 4 games? Is that what it is?
As far as I know, yeah.
Yeah.
Who will be the quarterback? Do we know?
He has the same name as Dave Garofalo. It's like Garofalo or something.
Gronkowski? Is it still Gronkowski?
No.
That's their tight end. That's their
It's the
fruit
Garofalo guy. I think his last name is Garofalo.
Oh, it might be. It's I know Gronkowski is their tight end, but it's like
Yeah.
Yeah, they had that quarterback who's the little guy. He looked like Tom Flutie. And it's like Gradikowski or something like that. Maybe I'm dating. What the hell? It doesn't. Nope, nobody cares. I'm a 49er fan. Basically, for the first part of the season, we're all fucked. We're all watching bad football well, John and I are going to watch bad football all year. Victor, you'll get good football once Tom Brady comes back.
It's Garoppolo is his name. P-P-O-L-O.
Okay. So who the hell was I thinking of then?
You kept saying the Gronk.
No, but there's another guy.
There's a Gronk-like guy, which is their kicker, which is Gronkowski.
No. You guys talk. I'll figure out who it is.
Right. Well, you know what I thought was funny? So, obviously, I'm a Jets fan, and I apologize to all our listeners and Victor for being a Jets fan, because it just means that I like to drink whiskey, and I drink lots of whiskey in the fourth quarter of our games, because that's when everything self-destructs. But what I laughed about, because, as you know, Pats and Jets are huge division rivals, have been for many, many years. And, you know, I know a lot about the Pats because they're a division rival, and I read a lot of the off-season talk, and it makes me laugh every year because they're like first or second preseason game. They're like, oh, has Tom Brady lost the step? It's like, look, I hate Tom Brady, and I respect Tom Brady, and I can tell you this. The guy has not lost the step, and it makes me laugh every time they talk about, well, has he lost the step? Look, he's probably going to be one of the top 2 quarterbacks to ever play the game of football. I can assure you he has not lost a step, and when he gets back from his 4th week of suspension, the Pats are going to go on a tear, and they're going to win 11 games in a row and win the division like they do every year. And I know that there's a lot of division people. There's Dolphin fans and Bills fans that are like, oh, I think this is a year to take the... No. As long as Tom Brady is in the NFL and as long as Tom Brady is playing for the Patriots are going to take the division. I'm sorry. With Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, what do you do? What do you do?
They're tough to beat, honestly. And being a fan aside, I mean, just look at the guy as a guy. I mean, he's like an every guy's guy. I mean, the guy has it going on, does he not?
He's got glorious hair. I mean, if Rob wants to fill out a Cards Against Humanity,
that's where you're going. Going with
he does have glorious hair.
He's got a supermodel wife, and if Rob wants,
that's why everybody hates him.
That's why everybody hates him.
Don't make me take my hat off. I'll take it off.
He's like the guy every guy wants to be. I mean, really. I mean, who doesn't want to be Tom Brady?
Yeah,
that's a good point.
If you want to fill out a Cards Against Humanity card, you can fill it out as stupid, sexy Tom Brady. That's your card. Stupid, sexy Tom Brady.
Anyway, I can't find this guy who I was thinking of. Apparently, he never played for the Patriots, but I thought he did. It's Gradikowski or something like that, and he was a little guy. It's gonna drive me nuts.
And you're thinking of Doug Flutie.
No, he was Doug Flutie-esque. Keep talking.
Proud Canadian Doug Flutie.
Keep talking.
You're not gonna find it. But Victor, have you had a chance to watch any of the preseason football? Are you geared up? No.
Unfortunately, I have not. I'm kind of out of the loop. I mean, my head has just been buried in administrative work. After these trade shows, it's just like playing catch up is at least 6 weeks for me, and it's kind of like all work, no play, and it's always like it's like not the fun stuff, it's the homework stuff. Like no kid likes to do homework, and it's like 6 to 8 full weeks of homework.
Not to derail, but I found who I was talking about, and he's never played for the Patriots. He's the backup, or at least he was the backup last year in Pittsburgh. Bruce Gradkowski.
Oh, Gradkowski, yep.
And he played for Cincinnati, and he played for the Reds in Cleveland, Tampa Bay. I don't know why I thought that he played for the Patriots, but
because Gronkowski, which is
maybe that must be it.
Gronkowski, the leg. The most consistent kicker in the league, and of course he has to play for the Patriots.
Well, that's because he's only kicking like 28-yard field goals. Because they're deflating the balls, and they always get inside the 20.
No, you know what? He had the record last year. I think only the was it the Falcons kicker? I think it was only the Falcons kicker that had a better record. If you had the guy in your fantasy league, and we'll talk more about this when we get into the regular season about fantasy leagues, but I'm pretty sure he was like the number 2 scoring fantasy league kicker last year.
So like he was the best guy drafted in the last round.
I don't even know. I don't
Well,
go that
you
deep.
you only take your kicker in the last round. Are you in the Sig Fed fantasy football league?
I'm not, and I probably should be.
Yeah, you should, and we could talk about that every week. Talk to who's running it? It's not Matt. It's Brett. Brett Harrington's running it.
All right,
Talk to
I'll
Brett.
check it out. One thing we didn't mention during the show, and I just want to throw it out there, is Cigar Federation is running a raffle for Techo.
Oh, yeah.
And I should have mentioned it during the show. For those of us still listening, thanks very much for tuning in. We're running a raffle for Techo now. I know there's a lot of raffles and fundraisers out there, but Techo is kind of one of the really, really great raffles out there. It's non-for-profit. It's taking people who are living in really, really poor conditions and building houses for them. And it's a really phenomenal fundraiser. And if you're not doing it for the humanitarian sake, there's just an astronomical amount of prizes you can win from even a $10 raffle. A $10 submission of the raffle will get you a chance to win some cigars. Definitely submit some money to that because it's going to be really great. And the SigFed crew is going to be going down next year in February along with whoever decides to sign up. We're going to be building some houses and doing some good for people in Nicaragua. So it'll be a really good fundraiser.
Yeah, looking forward to that. We've done fundraisers for this is our 3rd year. We did 2 years for Project Manana in the Dominican, and we switched it up this year to move over to Nicaragua. It's pretty cool. I mean, our goal is $10,000, raising $10,000, which I think will build 4 or 5 homes. And we're just past 75% of our goal, so we've got a ways to go yet. But it's going to be fun to get down there and actually, really make a difference. Take those dollars that you guys are contributing and turn them into hammers and nails and a home built by the Cigar Federation crew that's going to be down there. We're going to be hammering some nails. I want to be on Jared's crew because Jared is he's a civil engineer, so he's going to know how to build some of this stuff. I can't build anything, but if you tell me where to put the nails, I can do it. So it's going to be that's a good thing. So if you guys can spare a couple of bucks and buy a few raffle prizes, you'll probably win some cigars too. So there's that part of it as well. But on that note, I killed the conversation.
Yeah, we're up against it. We're about an hour and 35 minutes in. Victor, any parting words? I really appreciate you stepping in and sitting down with us. This is a really great show, and I can't believe we haven't had you on before.
Are we parting? Is this parting words, or are we still going?
I think we're wrapping it up because I think we ran out of booze that we're supposed to safely drink live online.
Well, first off, thanks for having me on. This was really a thrill for me because I was looking forward to drinking scotch with you guys and learning a little bit about scotch as well. And it was really a lot of fun for me to be on the show tonight.
Yeah, we appreciate you hanging out, and this show is fun for us. John and I have been doing this about 2 years now, give or take, and we've been going, for the most part every other week, but now we're going weekly because the Armed Forces Radio Network is playing our shows every night. To a lot of people, I'm sticking with the 3.2 million. I've been told that the number's a lot higher than that, and they're going to start playing NFL games, I think, on the weekends too. So that's their listenership is really, 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 really broad, international, and they're doing some great things and bringing some entertainment to some men and women out there who can probably use some entertainment at times. So, and we hope that we provide some of that. To be honest, if we hear from you guys who are listening, so thank you for chiming in with your emails and your tweets and things that you're checking out our show. That we're happy that we can bring you guys some entertainment, and hopefully you guys can all come home and share some cigars with us. So, on that note, though, yeah, Victor, great to hang out with you as always. And you know, when we do Japanese Whiskey 2.0, you're always welcome to join us.
Thank you. I'd love to be there. And, you know, if you're interested, I could talk to my friend. His name is Ryan, actually, and I believe he's a third-generation purveyor of fine wine and spirits. If you have any interest in getting him on, he does a radio show himself in Massachusetts. And if you're interested in having him on as a guest, I mean, I don't know what your guest list looks like or, you know, how that works, but I could certainly ask him, you know, or talk to him about it, see if maybe he's even seen your show and watches. I mean, you know, this guy knows his stuff about anything imported in the spirits category, so might be a decent guest for you guys to have on.
That'd be awesome. That sounds great. Anytime I can learn something, and I know that I can learn a lot from him. I think he's even dropped some wisdom on you, John.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be there next week. I'll even take like a video of their Scotch aisle, which in my opinion, is like it's the biggest Scotch variety aisle that I've ever seen in my life. So I'll take a video for you guys and, you know, show you like the forbidden fruit, like, hey, you know, this is my Scotch store.
That's awesome, though. I mean, and I can bring this back to cigars a little bit. It's like having, I mean, you have your spot that you go to. It's like having a good tobacconist near you, who, you know, having a great B&M who, when you walk in and you've spent some time with the guys who work there, they know what you like, and they say, oh, we got this cigar and you're going to love it. You have to try this. And they get to know their customers a little bit. So I don't have a liquor store like that. I've got, you know, a few places that I go to, and I've gotten to know the guys a little bit. But, I mean, it sounds like you've got a nice personal relationship there. That's really cool to have something like that, because really when you look at the two industries, there's a lot of similarities. I walk down the Scotch aisle or the bourbon aisle at Bevmo, which is kind of a larger type store, and I see a lot of stuff that I don't recognize. And it reminds me of when I first started smoking cigars, and I go into the B&M. It can be intimidating and a little overwhelming. And if you find somebody who really takes the time to sit down and talk to you and learn what you like and what you don't like, it leads to a lot of good things. So that's really cool that you've got that.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like hundreds, if not thousands, of bottles of Scotch that I mean, John, you'd probably know a lot of these different names, but I mean, when I walk up the aisle, I'm like, who are these brands, and, you know, what are they about? And it's just like, you know, the old kid in the candy store analogy. It's just crazy, you know. I want to try them all.
That's how you feel when you walk into a cigar shop. I mean, I feel the same way. I see something new, and it's like I zero in on it. You know, your radar goes off. It's like, doot, 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 doot. You know, I haven't seen this yet. What's this? I have to try it. So, but it's easier to do that with cigars because the investment's much smaller. But no, that's cool. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, we'd love to have him on. Absolutely.
All right, yeah, I'll talk to him next week, and I mean, great guy. I mean, I've known him for almost 20 years, and he'd probably be all for it.
That'd be great.
You know, I'll just put you guys in contact, and you guys can talk it out.
That'd be awesome. We'll all learn something. I know I will.
Giddy up.
Cool.
Always down. So check us out tomorrow night for Cigar Chat with Willie Herrera with Drew Estate on Cigar Chat. As Rob was mentioning, we're going to be back again live next week with Casada Cigars. We're going to switch it up from whiskey to beer. I like beer. Beer is good. And as we always say here on Sharing Our Pairings, drink better, drink less.